Good morning and welcome to Introduction to English Speech Sounds, which is A of Modern English Structure, prescribed paper number 9 of semester 5 of BA third year optional English. We are in the lesson of word stress or accent in English. Stress or accent is defined as the degree of force with which a syllable is uttered. A strong force of utterance means energetic action of all the articulatory organs. The non-verbal communication, like the movement of the hand or the eye or some part of the body, is always associated while the stressed syllable is uttered. It involves a strong push from the chest wall and consequently a strong force of exhalation. This gives an objective impression of so-called loudness to the utterance. A hearer perceives stress in terms of loudness. The pronunciation of the stressed and the unstressed syllables, a characteristic rhythmic pattern in speech, is very, very important for the English expressions. Stress is a permanent property of a word and therefore it can be shown in a dictionary. I advise you to refer to some standard English dictionary, maybe Oxford or Cambridge, at this juncture in order to understand the representation of stress or accent to the English words. The following are certain rules to be borne in mind to understand the stress in English. Stress is indicated by an apostrophe before and above the stressed syllable, as you could see in the example. There are two types of stress, the primary stress and the secondary stress. For example, in the word like examination, which is quite a bigger word, a pentasyllabic one, examination. 5 syllables are present. It's impossible for any speaker to utter all the 5 syllables together at a stretch. So, stress is to be given according to the rule for the nurse sound, because the syllable before the suffix is accented with the word for the words ending with tion. But because the word is quite bigger, a secondary stress is also given to the syllable za. The secondary syllable is marked with an apostrophe below and before the secondarily stressed syllable. So it is examination. No definitely has got the primary stress, but zo also is emphasized where it is called as secondarily stressed. If the words are polysyllabic, the notion of secondary stress enters into. Otherwise, for monosyllabic, disyllabic and trisyllabic words, we just have only one stress, and that is primary stress, which is indicated with an apostrophe above and before the stress syllable. The first rule of stress talks about disyllabic words may change their stress depending upon the function that they do in the sentences. If the same words are functioning as nouns and words, when they are functioning as nouns or adjectives, the stress would be given to the first syllable. But if they are functioning as the verbs in the expression, the stress is given to the second syllable. Accordingly, we have the pronunciation of convict being pronounced as a noun and convict being pronounced as a verb. Import, a noun. Import, a verb. Object, a noun. Object, a verb. Subject, a noun. Subject, a verb. This rule also is called as the functional rule of stress. The second rule talks about the disyllabic verbs with weak prefixes like a, be, re, and des. So accordingly, we said that if the disyllabic verbs are with the weak prefixes like a, be, re, des, they always are stressed on the root words and never on the suffixes. This is the rule. So the root words are to be accented. Accordingly, we have arise, alone, allowed, amount, apart, afloat, above, about. You had observed that all these words begin with the weak prefix a, and so the root word are given stress. Practice more for these words. Similarly, if the words are beginning with be, then also the root word is stressed. Accordingly, we have the pronunciations like below, become, befall, between, begin, behold, beside, beyond, because, and so on. Collect more number of words and practice for pronunciation. If the words are beginning with re, re, then also the root word is stressed according to the rule. So we have the words like reduce, retire, require, refuse, relieve, repair, return, report. That's right. Collect more number of words and practice them. If the words are beginning with dis as the prefix, then also the same rule applies. It is a root word that is to be stressed. So accordingly, we have disarm, disband, discern, disclose, discount, disgrace, disguise, dismay, dispel, dismiss, dissolve, distend, disturb, distress, and so on. So collect more number of words which have the prefixes like a, b, re, des. Look into the dictionary for the syllabic division. They should be disyllabic and should be beginning with these weak prefixes, and automatically we have the pronunciation giving stress on the root. The third rule of stress is disyllabic words with the suffixes like ate, ise, ize, and ct. If these suffixes are present for the disyllabic words, then the stress always will be the last syllable according to the rule. So we have accordingly narrate, giving the stress on the second syllable. Migrate, debate, locate, pulsate, vibrate. All these words are ending with ate and they're accordingly given the stress in the second syllable. Look at the pronunciation of these words like chastise, comprise, capsize, baptize. Now these words are ending with ise and ize, and obviously according to the rule, the last syllable is accented. Look at these examples. Attract, connect, depict, infect, inject, select, project. So in all these words, we have the words ending with ct and they are disyllabic, and hence according to the rule, the last syllable is accented. Collect more number of words and try the pronunciation of these words. The fourth rule of stress is a combination of three rules. Number one, polysyllabic words that are ending with ate, ise, izd, and ify. The polysyllabic words which are ending with these suffixes will take the stress on the antepenultimate syllable is the rule. We discussed what antepenultimate syllable is. Ultimate syllable is the last syllable. Penultimate syllable is last but one syllable. Antepenultimate syllable is third from the last. So the third from the last syllable is to be accented whenever we have number one according to the rules of stress, the polysyllabic words ending with ate, ise, izd, and ify. Say for example, complicate, separate, educate, cultivate, articulate. These words are ending with ate. Look at these words: colonize, brutalize, patronize, realize, recognize, monopolize, organize, civilize. All these are polysyllabic words ending with ise or izd, taking up their stress on the antepenultimate syllable. Now we have the words ending with ify: justify, classify, beautify, gratify, modify, nullify, satisfy. These are the polysyllabic words ending with IFY, and according to the rule, the stress is taken up at the antepenultimate syllable. Collect more number of words ending with ATE, ISE, IZE, and IFI and practice for pronunciation. The rule number 4 is also extended to the words ending with ITY, a T. They also take the stress on the antepenultimate syllable. Say, for example, ability, activity, curiosity, electricity, equality, generosity, possibility, probability. All these are the polysyllabic words ending with ITY, and they take up the stress in the antepenultimate syllable. The rule is also extended to the words ending with graph, graphy, logy, meta. The words that are ending with graph and graphy. Look at these words: autograph, autography, photograph, photography, paragraph, spectrograph, spectrography. The stress shifts. Why? Because the rule is third from the last. Autograph. Trisyllabic word is there. So the stress is on the first syllable. But when you say autography, 4 syllables are there. So automatically the stress shifts from the first syllable to the second syllable. That should be shown in your pronunciation, and that should also be shown in the selection of the vowels. Photograph, the first syllable is accented. Photography, the second syllable is accented. Autograph, the first syllable is accented. Autography, second syllable is accented. Spectrograph, the first syllable is accented. Spectrography, the second syllable is accented. Why? Because the rule of it says that the words that are ending with graph and graphy. Graph has got 1 syllable, graphy itself has got 2 syllables. So automatically third from the last, the stress has to shift. The same logic applies to logy and meter as well. Let's look at some examples. Psychology, biology, zoology, sociology. All logy will take up third from the last. And similarly is meter. Thermometer, lactometer, diameter, parameter, and so on and so forth. So the rule number 4 is quite interesting, which says the polysyllabic words that are ending with ATE, ISE, IZE, IFI, the words ending with ITY, and the words ending with graph, graphy, logy, meta will take up the stress on the antepenultimate syllable. By antepenultimate, we mean it is third from the last. Okay, let's move ahead to the rule number 5. The rule number 5 talks about the suffix tion, which a number of words in English end with. It's a very common suffix, which is pronounced as shun. The words ending with the suffix tion take the stress on the syllable before the suffix. Syllable before the suffix would mean that tion is the syllable, is the suffix, and whatever syllable is present before tion, that will take up the stress. The same logic is applied to the suffixes ik, ikal, ikalli, iyal, iyalli, and iyal. How many ever syllables are there in these suffixes? Leave aside the syllables, and the syllable that is present before this suffix is to be given the accent. That is the rule. The rule is also extended to the words that are ending with IOUS and EOUS. They also take the stress on the syllable before the suffix. So rule number 5 is a combination of 3 rules. Number 1, the words that are ending with TION will take up the stress on the syllable before the suffix. Number 2, the words that are ending with ik, ikal, ikalli, iyal, iyalli, iyan will take the stress on the syllable before the suffix. And number 3, the words that are ending with IOUS and EOUS will take the stress on the syllable before the suffix. Look at the examples that are given below. The same are pronounced in the next slide. So you have a, Application. 4 syllables are there. We are here not bothered about how many syllables are there and counting the syllables last from or last but one or syllable before the suffix and so on. It is only the syllable that is present before the suffix that is to be given accent. That is the rule. Now the applications ends with tion and so fits into this rule. K is the syllable that is present before shun and hence that is to be given accent. So it is application, application. And accordingly you have these words that are pronounced. Civilization, civilization. Composition, composition. Introduction, introduction. D is given stress. Conversation, Z is given the stress. Conversation, cultivation, examination, qualification, and imagination. Practice more with the words ending with tion because these words you find in ample in English expression. And the rule that you have to follow is the syllable before the suffix is given the accent. Now when we come down to the next rule, ik, ikkal, ikkalli, iyal, iyalli and iyan. When the words are ending with this, the same rule applies. The syllable before the suffix is given the accent. Accordingly, electric, trisyllabic word it is. The syllable before the suffix trick is lek and so l is given the stress and accordingly the pronunciation is. So the words that are ending with ik are given here. Apologetic, electric, sympathetic, patriotic, scientific. So ik will have the syllable before the suffix being accented. Now look at these words that are ending with al and ali, ikal and ikalli. The syllable before the suffix is given the accent. Inimical, empirical, apologetically, sympathetically, scientifically, following the rule. And similarly are iyal and iyalli, memorial, official, presidential, industrial, special, residential, ceremonial, essential, superficially, officially. So iyal, iyalli, again the same rule applies, the syllable before the suffix. And similarly is ian, Victorian, librarian, electrician, musician, politician, disciplinarian. So ik, ikal, ikalli, iyal, iyalli and ian will take up the stress and the syllable before the suffix. The rule is also extended to the words ending with EOUS and IOUS. Let's look at some words. Anxious, IOUS. Fractious, industrious, injurious, laborious, rebellious, delirious. All these words end with IOUS and are fit into the rules. Similarly are the words ending with EOUS, courageous, piteous, gorgeous, hideous, righteous, simultaneous, spontaneous, advantageous. Collect more number of words ending with EOUS and IOUS and practice. Rule number 6 talks about the inflectional suffixes like es, ing and ed and the derivational suffixes that do not generally affect the accentual pattern. Say for example, match. The initial syllable is accented. It is a monosyllabic word. Even if you add the inflectional suffix like es, the stress would not change. Matches. Similarly is begin, beginning. Brother, brotherhood. City, citizen. Bad, badly. Cheering, cheerfully, want, wanted, break, breakage. We see that even if these words are pronounced in isolation, or they have either the inflectional suffixes or some of the weaker derivational suffixes, the stress pattern does not change. And so you have lion, lioness, cheer, cheerful, fool, foolish, attract, attractive, aim, aimless, appoint, appointment, sharp, sharpness, discover, discoverer, discovery, fellow, fellowship, laugh, laughter, decision, decision, disclose, disclosure, city, citizen, mood, moody, color, colorful, fashion, fashionable, advise, advisable. So in these examples and many more in English, we find that the addition of inflectional suffixes or some of the weaker derivational suffixes do not affect the stress pattern. When the words are in isolation, the same stress is maintained even after the inflectional suffixes are added or some of the derivational suffixes are added. So practice for more number of examples. Rule number 7 talks about the addition of the suffixes with more number of vowel sounds, because of which the stress shifts. When you have more number of vowel sounds or the stronger vowels, automatically the stress shifts, as you find in these examples. Say for example, China. It's a disyllabic word, China. The first syllable is stressed, but when you add a suffix E-double-E-S-E, automatically there are more number of vowels into it. As a result of it, the stress shifts. China, the first syllable is accented, but Chinese, the second syllable is accented. Why do you think that the stress has shifted from the first to the second? That is because the suffix has got more number of vowel sounds and is to be pronounced for a greater sound. So Chinese, Japan, pa is stressed, but Japanese, na is stressed. Pay, payee. And similarly, you could find many such examples as obtain, sustain, million. The first syllable is accented, but millionaire, the second syllable is accented. Question, the first syllable is accented, but questionnaire, no is accented here. Similarly is engine, but engineer. Volunteer, volunteer. Career, marketeer, mountaineer. The stress shifts because of the more number of vowel sounds in the stress. Burmese, Chinese, Assamese, Japanese, Siamese. Barricade, cascade, degrade, lemonade, whenever, whatever, whatsoever, whoever, however. All these are stressed in the last because the syllable has got more number of vowel sounds and the stress shifts. So identify the English words where the addition of a suffix would not change the stress, as we have seen in rule number 6. And as we have seen in rule number 7, where the addition of the suffix will change the stress. Practice more for that so that your pronunciation would improve. And then we have rule number 8, that is associated with the compound words. The compound words that have a meaning entirely different or the first element further specifies the meaning of the second word would take the stress always on the first. And a compound word with 2 words will take the stress on the first word. A compound word with 3 words will take the stress on the second word. Look at these examples. Blacksmith. Now it is a combination of black and smith. but the meaning is entirely different. It has got nothing to do with black and nothing to do with smith. A blacksmith is a person who works with iron. The meaning is completely different. If you look at the next example, birthday, the day when you were born. Yes, both are complementing each other. The first element further specifies the meaning of the second word. So in a compound word where the meaning is entirely different from with respect to the two words that are used, as you find in the first example, or in a compound word which has the first element further specifying the meaning of the second, obviously you have the same rule applied where the stress is on the first word. So you have blacksmith, blackbird, brush sheet, blue stockings, bed sheet. In all these, where either they are complementing each other, the two words that are used in the compound word, or they have an entirely different meaning, you could find that the stress is always on the first syllable. Darning needle, birthday, slum dog, sheepdog. So the compound words with two words will always take the stress on the first syllable. And a compound word with more than two words, preferably three words, will take the stress on the second word. So it is waste paper basket, newspaper boy, but tablecloth, newspaper, waste basket. But when you have a compound word with three words, it becomes waste paper basket. Paper is given the stress. Newspaper boy, paper is given the stress. This is the last rule of stress. So we have 8 rules of stress that we discussed. Applying these, I want you to think about these words. I want you to clap and show me as to how this can be divided into syllables. And following the rules of stress, I want you to mark the stress to it. Practice well for these words. Thank you very much for being a part of the presentation. Bye for now.